Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Masjid Parking Lot. On today's episode, I am joined by all of my favorite people. Well, I mean, if we swapped Ismael with Yasmin, that statement would be more accurate. But
yo, shut up, bro. That's why I raised my eyebrows. I was like, Yasmin's not here. I was like, is she just lying straight to our faces right now? Bro.
But anyways, on today's episode, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, straight disrespect. All good.
Okay. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about what it's like to live with non-Muslim roommates as a Muslim. And so, Mido and Balsam, you guys have both been on the channel, but like introduce yourself super quickly for anyone who hasn't watched any of our old videos.
Hey everyone, my name is Balsam. I'm Randa's older sister. I go to Western for engineering, and I'm 22 years old, and I'm really craving a peanut butter cookie right now. I think that's a good.
I don't like peanut butter at all.
You know what? I just recently got into it, and I'm kind of obsessed with them. The ones from Tim Hortons, really good.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Mido. I am 25 years old, and I am currently completing my master's as well as teaching at a high school. Nice to meet you all. Well, not nice to meet you, but like I hope you enjoy this.
Yo, I love how Balsam was like, I don't want to be one of those engineering students that introduces myself as an engineering student, and then literally 1 second after
I'm sorry, but
like...
I'm just gonna have to admit it's like a major part of my personality, and like it's just it's really sad, but it's just the truth. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, can we pause? I used to grab my computer charger.
Also, I never thought she was older. I thought Balsam was younger.
That's rude, Ismail. That's rude.
Good.
Why is it rude?
And that puts you in my bad books.
You want
It's
to
okay. It puts me in Randa's good books, and me and Randa be vibing.
See, the thing is, when people don't see us in person, they always think I'm the older one. Because like personality wise, I have.
Oh, she just called out Balsam for being immature. She's like, not Balsam, immature.
Oh my god, yo, Randa. I thought I was gonna be mean, bro. Never mind. You got it.
I don't think she can hear us. She didn't hear that.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll recap it. It's okay.
Well, yeah, we'll recap it for her.
Cliff Notes summary.
Oh my god, Ismail, we don't look alike though, right?
No, like you guys look like cousins, maybe.
Bro, you know what happened? It's so funny. First time meeting Balsam, it was like an IAM event, right? I didn't know Randa had a sister. I didn't know anything. So I'm going, and Randa and Yasmin and Balsam were chilling with each other. I just saw Randa and Yasmin. So I went up to them and I was like, oh, hi, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. So then Balsam was like, oh, Mido, how are you doing? And like, she asked me a question and I answered. I'm like, by the way, who are you?
Oh.
She knew my name. She knew something about me in terms of teaching, or
She literally walked up to Mido and she's like, you're the teacher, right? And Mido doesn't know who she is. Like, she only knows of Mido through me, but Mido doesn't know who she is.
I didn't know Randa had a sister.
Okay, but I basically knew you. Like, I knew you because I knew things about you from Randa and Yasmin.
Of like a YouTuber. And she like believes that, because she's watched them so long, they're friends. So when she sees him, she's like, hey friend, what's up? You want to go get like lunch together or whatever?
Oh,
like I'm knowing you for so long.
That is not what happened, but I do realize I came off a little too strong.
Honestly, I found it funny.
But it was funny. You know what? It's like it's a funny like first meeting story, right?
But to be fair, they both have the same facial structure. Like literally the same. Look at it.
Doing the whole like analysis.
Good to know.
I'm looking.
Thanks, man.
I'm just. It's not analysis. I'm literally looking at both your freaking faces, and I'm like, it's the same face.
I can never analyze faces. I can never. For me, I'm like, they both have eyes, noses, and mouths.
Dude, look, they both have the same. Look, they have basically the same jawline and basically the same like what's it called? Top side of the head.
I disagree.
What do you mean you disagree?
We actually have very different face shape, but
yeah.
Okay, then is your camera freaking like maybe
actually, you know what I think it is? You know what I think it is?
Like,
yeah, it makes everyone's face look the same.
Okay, maybe it's not.
Probably.
Okay, do we want to continue? Like, actually?
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of editing for you.
Yeah. Okay, so how long did each of you guys live with like non-Muslim roommates? Mido, go.
Okay. For me, I've lived away from home for 8 years, 5 of which were with non-Muslim roommates.
So you probably have a lot of stories.
Yeah, bro.
Unfortunately.
How about you,
Uh,
Ismail?
For me, it's a year.
Bassam?
1 year as well.
Okay, so give me a horror story or a funny story. Start us off.
Okay, I'll start. I have a
Go,
couple.
okay.
I have a couple in
Yeah, you
mind that I
start,
really
bro.
want to share. I have a couple in mind that I really want to share. I'm gonna share the more mild one, and then I'm gonna share like the more funny, serious, not serious, but yeah. So the more mild one would be, so non-Muslims, what they tend to do is like they enjoy to party. They enjoy, well, I'm not gonna say all non-Muslims, but generally like there is no rule against drinking or smoking, so it's up
It's
to
generally
everyone.
accepted in society. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So essentially, what happened was I had a roommate, and like he went out to party and he enjoyed himself and whatever. So he comes back home and like he's drunk normally, right? So then it's like 1 a.m. Me and my friends are just chilling, and he's like, I want to smoke. So we're like, okay. So then he's like, I want to make a bong. So I'm like, we don't have a bong. He's like, don't worry, I got this. So he goes, grabs a Gatorade bottle and starts poking holes in it and starts putting like weird pipes in it and whatever. And in like 10 minutes, he makes a legitimate functioning bong. And then he just starts smoking it, and the rest of my roommates just start joining in. I was like, how is he not an engineer? He was like a science student. I was like, that is insane. Like in 10 minutes, he made a bong out of nothing.
DIY bong.
Right. Like, and it was like fully functioning and everything, and like it became like the house bong, and like he would just keep it in the house, and like whenever anyone in the house wanted to use it, they just used it. And it happened like first week of living with all of them together, because I lived with the same people for like 3 years in a row, for starting from second year to fourth year, and like it was just interesting to say the least.
If that ain't the most like broke student story, bro, I don't know. It's like a bong is like $30 maybe. And
Yep.
these guys are like, nope, I need to make it out of a Gatorade bottle.
But like that's innovation right there. That's called innovation. So that's my milder story. My funny story was one of my roommates, he had a girlfriend, and like me and my friends were just in the living room watching TV. So then him and his girlfriend are going in, and they're grabbing like these big white like cupboards and whatever, and like you need to like put them together kind of thing. So they're grabbing it from her car, and then he's putting it up in his room, whatever, that kind of thing, right? So I saw that, and like I didn't think anything of that. So then that night, it was like 10, 20 minutes later, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep. So I'm going to sleep, and like they start building it. They start like hammering it and building it and whatever. So I was like, okay. So then the next morning, I was like, by the way, what'd you get? He's like, what? I'm like, oh, what were you hammering yesterday? He's like, I wasn't hammering anything. I'm like, bro,
He
I heard
really
you
was,
hammering.
though. He was, though.
I was like, bro, I heard you hammering yesterday. What were you making? So then he looks at me, and like, for me, I'm speaking normally in front of his girlfriend, in front of everyone in the house, because I genuinely believed he was building something. It turns out not. He was
They're building a life
fun.
together, bro. They're building a family.
They're building a family. There you go.
Oh,
and
man.
his face just went red. His girlfriend just like walked out of the kitchen, because we were all in the kitchen eating.
Oh
It was just
no.
Yeah, that's embarrassing, man.
interesting to say the least.
Mido, you really put them on the spot like that.
I did. I
Mido.
genuinely thought it was
No,
bad.
but that's because you're innocent, bro. That's what makes
His
it funny.
Muslim came out. Like his
Yeah,
inner Muslim
straight
kid
up.
came out. He was like, I don't know what any of this is. Never heard of it.
So there you go. That was my interesting story.
Well, who can top that story?
Balsam, you go.
Okay, well, if the boys go first, my bad. If the boys go first, that makes my story super underwhelming. I lived in a girl's house. I lived there for just 1 year. And it was my first year in university. So you can imagine it was like I was living off campus first year, because like ain't nobody trying to pay like $15,000 for residence. Like that's not the vibe. And it was just with a bunch of random people. Luckily, one of them just happened to be Muslim. Everyone else was non-Muslim. Honestly, I never really had any crazy stories or anything like that. But one thing that always cracks me up was that I had one roommate, Shout out to Jenna. She's not gonna hear it. She's not gonna watch this, but she had friends who came over. Sometimes there were guys, sometimes there were girls, whatever. And everyone was. I was the only hijabi in the house, so everyone was super courteous. Courteous.
Courteous.
Courteous.
Everyone was super nice.
I wasn't gonna correct you, but it's because you asked twice.
I am asking
okay.
for the correction. Everyone was super nice. And they would always let me know if there was a guy coming to the house or whatever, and I would just go like sit in my room or wear my scarf, whatever. So this girl, she comes, she's like, yeah, I have a few guy friends who are coming over, so just letting you know, but also they're gay, so I don't know if that matters and you still have to wear the scarf in front of them, but I'm just letting you know. And I was like, thank you, Jenna, and I will still be wearing a scarf in front of those boys. And she was like, okay. I respect it and I was grateful for it, but it was just really funny. Anyways, that's my super underwhelming story.
I find that funny.
Thank you, Mido.
I don't know if I have a specific story in mind, but like I'll just talk about the experience really of it. Like it was just like my experience was on res, right? And it was basically a couple of things. It was drinking, like as in like people in like my roommates, like there's always alcohol in the house. Everybody, even during the day, like sometimes they'll be like I don't know, studying or talking, and they'll be like, hey, let's do a shot. It's 4 whatever, what is it? It's 4 p.m. somewhere. And then I'll just walk into the kitchen and they'll be taking a shot or whatever. And then it'll be like other than drinking, then I had some roommates who would smoke. And then I had a whole thing about that because I hate the smell of weed. I absolutely hate it. It's disgusting to me. I despise it. So like either they would lock the door of one of the bedrooms and do it out the window, or they would leave and do it outside. Because I was just like, I just can't do it. So yeah, and then so that was the other thing. And then there was also like partying. I quickly found out that I'm not really a crowds person. I've always not been that much of a people person. Like I generally dislike people. No. I don't generally dislike people, but I don't like crowded situations where like people are packed like sardines. Like I don't like subways. I don't like clubs. I don't like concerts. I don't like anything. Islam aside, I don't like any of these scenes. I'm very much more of a like an in-person, deep convo type of person. And I'd rather like smaller hangouts. So whenever the party thing was on, like that also bothered me a little bit. But then there's the whole girl situation, and like there's always girls that coming in and out of the house, right? So yeah, it was just like to be short with it. It was very much a non-Islamic experience.
That's a very like mild way to put it.
Yeah, that's a very mild way to put it.
Okay, so
eye-opening. Let's say that, and it was an eye-opening experience. Yeah.
We're actually gonna get to that. You know what? We'll get to that prompt right now.
I know. That's why I didn't say anything more. Yeah.
Do you think that your experience living with people with different faith backgrounds, like, do you feel like there was a pro to that? Mido, do you want to go? Because I know you have a lot to say about this one.
I do actually have a lot to say about this one. This one, I was actually looking forward to this question.
Okay.
So for me, like when I was in high school, there was a lot of Muslims around me. And like what really turned me off from Muslims was the fact that like I came from like Egypt, and like I jumped from Egypt, Malaysia, that kind of thing. And so the Muslim culture I knew was the one in my family where like if you're Muslim, you're all in kind of thing. So then I come, and then in high school, I'd see like these people where in the masjid, they're reciting the entire Quran, they're praying, they're imams or whatever. And I see them when I'm in my classes, and they just have girlfriends, and they're just making out with them. And it's just like, I was like, I don't like this. I'm like, either you're in or you're out kind of thing. I know that was like an innocent perspective, but it just turned me off from Muslims in general. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be around people who might guide me away from Islam. So I was like, I'm just going to be with non-Muslims. Anything they say, I know it's coming from a non-Muslim. Therefore, I'll take it with a grain of salt. And then if I want to learn more, I want to see if I can do it as a Muslim, I can research it myself, as opposed to get someone who's Muslim tell me, yes, it's allowed, even though it's not allowed, right? So that was my mentality leaving high school and going into first year undergrad. As a result, I genuinely just like throughout my first 3 years of undergrad, I think I made one Muslim friend. That's it. I completely walked away from Muslim people. I was a Muslim, but I just did not want to interact with Muslims. And one thing I noticed was in the first year, second year, I'm like, oh, this is fun being with non-Muslims. They're more relaxed. There's not a lot of it made me feel fine and everything, right? So I enjoyed being with non-Muslims. Then come third year, and then when it came to third year, I was like, they're very repetitive. It's always, hey, I'm bored, let's go drinking. Hey, I'm bored, let's go smoking. Hey, I'm bored. Or if they're not bored, they're always complaining, oh, I want a girlfriend, oh, I want this, oh, I want that. And like it's a lot of like drama that I didn't really care too much about, right? And that was something that started to get on my nerves a little bit, right? Because 3 years into it, I'm like, okay, I get it. You want to drink, you want to smoke, you want to be with a girl, or you want to, what's called, or it's just you want some sort of relationship, and it just gets annoying to a certain degree. Therefore, what happened was, starting third year, I was kind of starting to get annoyed, and I saw this, like for me, I loved McMaster. Oh, by the way, for people who don't know, in undergrad, I went to McMaster University. One reason I really loved it is because the khutbah during Jumu'ah prayers, it always felt like it was directed specifically to me, right? So that's what really kept me like attached to Islam. Is every time I went to the khutbah, he would always talk about something that I'm feeling in the moment, right? And like throughout the years, we've all heard that at least one imam go, you know what, you should be with the right group of friends. If you're not with them, you need to let go of them and you need to make new friends. We've all heard that, but it's very unrealistic to be like, you know what, I'm just going to give up all my friends, right? And as a result, what happened was one time I go and I'm like, at that point, I've made the decision. I really want to be with Muslim people now. Like it's starting to get on my nerves. And what happened was he's like, when we say you need to let go of your friends and you need to go and make Muslim friends, it's not we're not saying, oh, give them up immediately. It's like, you know what, rather than spending 5 days a week with your non-Muslim friends, maybe spend 4 days a week with your non-Muslim friends and 1 day with a Muslim friend, right? And then once things start to pick up, maybe like go 3 days and 2 days, maybe go 2 and 3, and then eventually they're just you're not hanging out with the people who don't help encourage you to become a better Muslim as much, right? So as long as you're not hanging out with them as much, that's the whole point. And that's the thing, like I am so happy. I am so happy I actually made friends was roommates with non-Muslim people. The reason is because I was born a Muslim. So growing up as a Muslim, I was, yeah, I'm a Muslim. But because I was with them and I saw what they do, that I realized I really disliked that lifestyle. And therefore, rather than me being a Muslim, I chose to be a Muslim. I accepted Islam. Like, yes, I am born a Muslim, but there's a point in your life where you accept it and you choose it for yourself, and not just because, you know what, your parents told you Islam is right or whatever. And I'm really grateful to them for that, because now I'm so much happier knowing that when I'm a Muslim, I'm doing it for myself and I've chosen it for myself. That's why I think that it was a pro for me, especially like I know Ismael and Balsam, you guys had it for like 1 year, but I've had it for like 5 years in a row, and it definitely has a different impact in like multiple years as opposed to just 1 year. So that's my perspective.
Ismail, you look deep in thought. Go on.
No, because I'm relating a lot to what you're saying, because for me it was okay. So I took a little bit more of an extreme approach, but basically just like Mido, I kind of grew up around Muslims always. I came from Saudi, right? So like I was born in a Muslim majority country. I lived there for 11 years. And when I came here, I went to Islamic school for 3 years. And then my high school years were in a school that was very like multicultural, lots of Muslims, lots of brown people, lots of Asians, so not a lot of like strictly westernized, like whitewashed like people or whatever. So when I went to like what's it called, college, that was the first time like completely immersing myself in, and this is what I wanted. That was my objective, because this is at a point in my life where Islam was not even like, it was in the back of my head barely. So this was, for me, I was just a curious guy that just wanted to know what life was like if I was not born in a Muslim family. So I was just like, like putting basically my feelers out, just trying to see what life is all about. And living with non-Muslims showed me not what it's like, but it gave me interactions with people who weren't from my background, right? So I lived with atheists and like staunch atheists and like people who are agnostics. So that kind of opened up, and even the atheists and me would even argue back and forth at a time where I wasn't even a practicing Muslim whatsoever. But because I grew up in like an educated, like Islamic, very like grounded Islamic family, like I had like my arguments in line, and I knew why I was at least somebody who believed that Islam was right, although I didn't practice it. So, and we would have these arguments. Sometimes we debate all the way till like 8 in the morning. They would be drinking the whole way through. But yeah, like it would create this atmosphere where it got me very interested in studying atheism. It got me very interested in studying Islam further. It got me to like question all these like big questions about life and all this stuff. And that's what started like my journey into like, like really finding out if I want to choose Islam or not. Because at the end of the day, the Quran tells us not to follow the religion of our forefathers. So I wasn't like, I knew this. So I was like, okay, I was born in a Muslim family, but do I really want to be a Muslim? Is Islam the 100% truth? So I need to look into it, right? So all these conversations with these people kind of like, in my head, I was like, okay, if I come to the realization that Islam is the truth, I'm going to go all in, just like Mido was saying. So I'm going all in. If not, then I'm not going to go at all. So that's what started my journey. And then once I started getting, because the journey is like, you don't get convicted that like once you get one fact straight. No, like it's a accumulation of certainties and convictions. Like when you take down any concerns or any of that's what builds your certainty. So at a certain point, at the end of that first year, and maybe more moving into the second year, I was like just cutting out friends left, right, and center, like very cold turkey. Because the way I saw it was, I really started internalizing, tell me who your friends are, I tell you who you are, which is what you were talking about. Like in theory, that sounds nice, but I'm also a very, I'm very decisive. Let's go with that. But that's not the word I was looking for. But yeah, decisive when I make a decision, that's it. Khalas. So like in my head, I was like, okay, my objective is
firm
to not be around, what's it called? Not to be tempted or be around any of those haram things, because now I'm, firm. Thank you, Mido. Okay, so
good
firm.
word, good word.
Yes, so I'm very firm. So like once I hit a realization and that's it, like my head's made, I straight cut things. So cold turkey, not just I cut friends, I cut habits, all that stuff, cold turkey, and I just had to take myself out. So I moved out. At the time, I wasn't even living with the same roommates I was. I was living with some other people as well, who are like lost Christians again. So like that, no Muslims around me at all. And then I moved out and I went back to living at home, and then that started, that furthered my journey, I guess, like into Islam.
How about you, Balsam?
I think my stories and my experiences are definitely more mild. I don't think I came out of it with a life-changing story per se, but I can say I lived with one girl who was Muslim, like I said already, and then three other non-Muslim girls. I was the fifth one. It was a 5-bedroom house. So I didn't have really much of a relationship with two of the girls, but one of the girls, I'm still really good friends with her, and we still talk to this day, like 3 years later. But she's a practicing Catholic, and I never really knew anything about Catholicism. She didn't really know anything about Islam as much. And so like we were able to engage in a lot of really interesting and cool conversations about what her religion is like, what my religion is like, how we're similar and how we're different. And so I really think we both really gained a lot from learning from each other. I also just think like for the 3 non-Muslim people in the house, it was maybe their first time living so close and sharing a space with someone who's Muslim, and not only Muslim but practicing and wears the hijab. And like obviously when you don't wear the hijab, it's a little bit different. Like you don't really have to like oh, you don't have to like limit guys. Well, you should, depends obviously on the girl, but I mean like she might be a little more open for her hair to show when a guy
The
is
learning
there, right?
curve basically is
The
not as
learning
big
curve
for
is
the
what
girl,
I'm trying to
yeah.
say. Yeah. So like so it's a little bit less restriction on the non-Muslim girls, whereas for me they really had to learn and adapt how I couldn't show my hair to any guy, period, whether it was their dad trying to like bring their stuff in when they're moving in, or whether it was a friend or whoever it may be. So I think that was something that was really interesting, having those kind of conversations and like seeing people having to like learn about me and that kind of learning curve. Also, I realized I was not that great at setting boundaries. Um, Personally, I would have wanted like no guys to come into the house and stuff like that, but I understand that might be infringing into other people's freedoms and rights and stuff. So it was a little bit, I don't want to say annoying, but it was a little bit like annoying to have to be like closing your room whenever a guy came, because you just wanted to limit contact as much. You didn't want to like walk around in your house with a guy that you don't know sitting there. It's a little bit a different dynamic for Muslim girls, right? And like how we try and limit our contact with guys. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was a very life-changing experience, but it was a good experience nonetheless. I've heard people have very horrible like horror stories. Thankfully, everyone was, respectful, and it was a good experience overall.
I have a question for you, Balsam.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not like making judgment for judgment's sake, but I'm curious. Do you think that because you are Muslim and you're female and you're a Muslim female who wears the hijab, that kind of restricts you in the amount of freedom you kind of get? Because like for me, like my name is Muhammad, but I go by Mido, right? People don't, based on my name, people can't guess I'm Muslim, right? So as a result, people are more likely to think that I am non-Muslim, and therefore they're more willing to like be more open and like a little bit more free in that aspect. Whereas with you do have the hijab. Do you think, you know what, because you have the hijab, you can't like go undercover kind of thing as a non-Muslim and see how it is like in their perspective? Do you think that's maybe a reason why you felt like your experiences wasn't life-changing? Because you know what, wearing the hijab, like to a certain degree, I'm not saying you did, but to a certain degree, you have to represent all Muslims, and therefore you have to be as courteous as possible, as put together as possible, that kind of thing. Do you feel that was it an effect on you, or do you think not really?
So believe it or not, the question that you're posing is very, very commonly discussed amongst girls who wear the hijab, who are considering wearing the hijab, who used to wear the hijab, whatever, in our community. And people can choose to take it in one way or the other. The first way is that they can take it as it's burdensome, because it might not allow you to be concealed in some environments where it might be strange for you to be there. Maybe places like if you were one day you were curious and you wanted to go to Seeps, okay, you wanted to go to the club, you wanted to see what it looked like
in London.
Doesn't mean you wanted to go drinking or be with somebody, but like you just wanted to go and check it out and see what it's like. As a hijabi, it's really, really weird for you to be there, because you would stand out. You're not like everybody else. And it's like, aren't you supposed to be religious? Like, you representing a religious community, like why are you here, right? Whereas if you don't wear the hijab, it might be a lot easier for you to kind of just blend in and no one would notice, right? So some people can take that as a negative, because it like constricts you from doing all these things that could be fun, and I just want to do it once and just like see what it's like and stuff like that, and hijab is holding me back from doing those. Or also it's such a burden because I'm representing community, or I'm representing an entire religion, and it's really hard for me because I have to be perfect all the time, right? That's one aspect of it. Second aspect of it is that you can take it in a positive way. And with my years of wearing the hijab, I've really chosen to lean into that side because it makes this a lot easier of experience for me, which is the hijab isn't holding me back from living my life. It's holding me back from doing the haram. And I am just as sinful as everyone else. I don't hold myself at a higher moral ground whatsoever. However, I do think that the hijab does hold you back from committing sins, or leading you into places where you could potentially move on to commit sin. And so if you look at it from that point of view, that it's not holding you back, it's protecting you, you will be much better off. Does that answer your question, Mido?
That's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I, on the other hand, am the antithesis to a woman wearing a hijab. I could be super undercover and nobody would ever know, but that's how it worked. So that worked not in my favor because that didn't protect me. And I was able to go and like be tempted by being around all these things and not ever have to worry about me representing Islam. Because the last thing somebody's gonna ask a guy that looks like me is like, oh, are you religious? And that's not because I think that that's right. It's because that's just my experience. Like nobody ever, whenever I say I am religious, everybody's like, really? I've even had a professor, like literally a professor in the middle of a lecture. He pointed at me and he's like, you look like you're going to have some fun this March break. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean?
I'm Islamic?
What do you mean? No, and then he's just like, oh, you look like a party boy. Like you're going to have some fun. Like you're going to get some girls. I'm like, I'm actually like a practicing Muslim, so I don't party, I don't do anything. He's like, oh, come on, you don't have to act in front of me. And I was like, no, I'm like actually like a practicing Muslim. And he's like, oh, really? That's very interesting. This is, mind you, a conversation in front of lots of other people. And he just pointed out me and like, we're just having this, one-on-one convo that's for everybody to like see. So it's like, it's a very, normal thing that I've gotten used to over the years.
Yeah. And like, I want to say most people in their life will see something, they'll see like a sin or something that's haram, but that could never be me. I could never do that. What do you mean? I could never. And then suddenly, just the way life works and the way the dunya works, like you might find yourself in that space, potentially doing that sin or near that sin, just around it. And so like, it's you have to be very careful, right? And I think like, for me, like this hijab really does help me do better and think about my actions before I do them.
Even in Islam, like why do we can't, people who really think like that, like they really need to understand that like we can't even guarantee our own Islam. Like why do we make the dua and prayer like ahsin khitamana? It's because
Absolutely.
we like don't even, bro, you don't understand that like it doesn't, irrelevant of Islam, like keep Islam on the side. Like if Islam is absolute truth, but you could have something in your life happen that could misguide you away. There could be somebody that walks in. There could be, even if you're a guy and a girl walks into your life and she's all about Christianity, you love her so much, she takes you away from Islam. Like don't ever think that you're too good because Prophet Prophet Nuh's son, he couldn't even guarantee his own son, and he's a prophet. He couldn't even guarantee his own son. And he literally begged him to come on the boat and to be a believer, and he wouldn't. So like, if Prophet Nuh can't guarantee his son, you can't guarantee yourself. So don't even try to front that you can guarantee you not doing an action in the future. Just focus on yourself and try to motivate yourself to be better every day.
Yeah, and literally, the Prophet ﷺ, he used to make this dua. He would say, "Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala."
Yes.
O turner of hearts, keep our hearts firm on your faith. Like if the Prophet would make that prayer, like, you know what I mean? And we're just like the average person. But yeah. Well, this conversation took a very different turn.
Deep turn.
But now that you guys have all shared your experiences living with non-Muslim roommates and reflected a little bit about that, after you guys either moved back home or moved in with Muslim roommates, how did that experience, what was the contrast like?
I'll say how it was for me. I moved back home, and part of the moving back home was obviously new surroundings, new environment, all that stuff. But I was still very much able to go and still chase those things because clubs still exist back in the city I was going back to, I had lots of, what's it called, Muslim and non-Muslims who did all the stuff that my roommates did. So it was basically I had to make, again, a choice. And I was like, okay, I'm going along with this journey that I'm doing. Do I want to keep going with this now that I'm in an easier environment? And do you want to seek out the same problems that I was, facing before? So I just naturally started noticing that, because this was for me over a 3-year period. I started noticing that the more I became religious, the more I couldn't handle being around people who didn't, and not just religious, older, the more I couldn't handle being around people who didn't share at least the moral foundations as me. So atheists, I just couldn't be friends with anymore. I just could not, because the more you study and the more you become convicted and the more you understand their perspective, the more you low-key become repelled by people who hold these positions. So it's it just made me very uneasy being around them and hearing them speak and hearing because all their opinions are going to come from that worldview. And because I find that worldview to be so warped, I just couldn't. And because I'm a very opinionated person, it just meant that anytime I'm around atheist people, I'm not letting anything slide. So when they say a contradiction, I'm going to call them out. So we couldn't have any conversations, let alone a friendship. So I just couldn't, it just happened naturally. I just couldn't be friends with atheists anymore. Any atheist friends that were around me, I stopped hanging out with them. With agnostics, actually no at all, because agnostics are very interesting because they're at least the ones who are seeking answers. Those were stayed friends with me because I was on my own journey looking for answers. So that actually was an interesting process of sharing our knowledge and all that stuff. And then I found that I started gravitating heavily to the friends that I have today, who over this journey have done the same thing, they were also seeking answers, and they were finding truth in Islam, and they were focused on becoming the best version of themselves, and they're furthering their deen. I don't know if you guys know, but there's a TikTok going around about this anime sound, and it's basically a guy's about to do haram, something haram, and then the other guy slaps him, and he's you guys don't know it? Okay, so he slaps him, and in an anime voice, he's the other guy that gets slapped, right? He's thank you very much, best
Thank you very much, best friend.
That's the thing,
I've been saying this all day, and no
I'm
one in the house
don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
oh my bad.
I don't search it up. It's just it's an anime where somebody gets slapped, and the guy that gets slapped is thank you very much, best friendo. So basically, all the Muslims on TikTok have been using it as all the Muslim guys and girls, when we're in friend groups, and we're keeping each other on the straight path because we're each other's support system. We're each other's what's it called, kind of control system. Control as in control meaning when somebody sees you doing something wrong, they hit you yo, wake up, you're doing this, or they notify you. A notification system, you should say. So that's now when I look at my close friends. First of all, I used to have a crap ton of friends. Now I've just narrowed it down to quality and people who I just want to I really enjoy spending time with and that are beneficial to me. So, and this group are all on the same wavelength as I am, whether they're Muslims or not, still on the same wavelength. I have now 2 of my friends are very practicing Christian friends, although we disagree on a lot, but at least there's a bare minimum worldview. There's a bare minimum that they pass, which is great.
Mido?
Okay, thank you. So insightful, Ismael.
So what?
Insightful.
Oh, insightful. Okay.
For me, I was separated away from Muslims for a long period of time, especially even when I was an undergrad, I stayed away from family during summertime simply because I had a job in Hamilton and my family was in Toronto. So even summertime, I never really I would go to my family for a weekend or a day or two and that kind of thing, but I never really spent a long period of time with them. So when I finally decided I wanted to be more with Muslims, and like I said, I spent 5 years with non-Muslims. So when I started being with Muslims, for me it was very much a learning curve because I needed to learn how to deal with Muslims, and dealing with Muslims is different than dealing with non-Muslims. Simply because, again, I'm not trying to generalize this. I hope nobody gets offended going oh, you're generalizing. I would say being with Muslims, it is like they you don't people at least my first experience with Muslims after staying away from Muslims is a fact that like that was very restrictive. They're like, oh, they don't talk about anything related to like sex. They don't talk about anything related to drugs. They don't talk about anything related to alcohol, related to smoking. Like we all know that one person who knows nothing about a female, right? We all know that one person who knows nothing about a female. Like, and you know what's funny? Like me and my friends, like I was just like we were all like there was like 7 of us, right? We were all talking about it, and like we were all talking about that situation, and like I realized that like out of the 7 of us, 6 of them did not know a lot, right? And they're not the only people who did not know, right? So it was just there's a lot. I'm not saying a lack of education, but because it is taboo, right? People steer away from knowing that knowledge, which at times it is important to know, right? So it was just a learning curve for me because I realized I had a lot of knowledge that if I shared it, they'd be like, oh, he's very liberal. He's not a Muslim, right? So I remember what like there was like some MSA thing and like I remember like we were all together and then I remember asking Yasmin, I was like, is it because for me again I had like non-Muslim friends and like on my Instagram I remember like I had my students who were girls, right? And they're like, oh, I dare you to post a picture of all 3 of us with an ugly picture on your Instagram. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I did that. Now I was like to Yasmin, I remember like it was like an MSA event and I was like, am I supposed now that I'm making Muslim friends, am I supposed to delete that picture? Right? I genuinely did not know. I don't know how to interact with Muslims. I've never interacted with them. Like it was like a new concept to me. And through that I
So were
learned
you like so were you like afraid of judgment?
I was afraid that like I genuinely didn't because here's the thing. I'm gonna admit, like going into the MSA, I genuinely thought everyone was super Muslim. Okay, you know what's funny? You know what's funny? The reason I joined the MSA is because a Jewish friend of mine, she encouraged me to join it. She was super religious, right? She was Jewish, she's super religious and everything. She's super active in the Jewish Student Association. I don't know what it's called, I apologize. But yeah, she was super active. And like I remember like her and I were very close as friends. So then I was like, tell me about it. Aren't you afraid of judgment? Aren't you afraid of what people will think? Aren't you afraid of like people thinking you're extremists? Especially like with all due respect, that Jewish people do tend to get a lot of hate because of their religion, right? So I asked her that, and she was like, I can't live my life being scared and that kind of thing. And she knew I was Muslim, and she knew that like I was still transitioning into like trying to make Muslim friends. So she's like, my biggest advice to you is join the Muslim Student Association. She told me to join it because she's like, she gained a lot from joining and being with like-minded people, and she's like, I will feel the same and I will feel at ease, right? And like I joined and I told her and she was super happy and everything. And like to this day, like we are friends and I'm super thankful for her. And like she has always encouraged me to like get closer to my own religion. Like she wasn't like, oh, go be Jewish. She wasn't like, she was very, very nice. And like I really am happy for her because of her. And that was the reason when I joined the MSA, I thought everyone was super religious. And that's why I was like, should I post a picture? I don't know. What should I do? I was literally like, I remember I was like, should I delete it? And Yasmin like freaked out on me. It was like Yasmin and another friend. They both freaked out on me. Like, why would you do that? I was like, because Muslim people are now following me on Instagram. I was like, they're like, so who cares? Right? You are you. Like, don't try to put on a weird persona or whatever. So it was a big learning curve. I learned to like that there are people who are restrictive in Islam and super like, oh, if you deviate from the norm by like a millimeter, like, oh, you're an extremist, right? That was their mentality. And I was like, okay, maybe that's not the person I want. I want to be the people who are willing to speak about things and educate rather than are authoritative and like, hey, do this or you're wrong kind of thing, right? So that was one thing. Yeah, learning what to say, what not to say, and like just in general, learning to be with people who are going to guide me and like encourage me to be a better Muslim, as opposed to make me steer away from Islam as I did when I was in high school. Um, so it was just for me, it was a mostly learning curve because I was very isolated from anything Islamically related. So that was my experience. So moving back, that would be the big thing. I remember like my family has made fun of me many a times. They're like, "Do you even know how to talk to Muslim people?" I was like, not at all. So yeah, that would be my experience.
You, Balsam, you know what? I can summarize your experience. First year you lived with non-Muslims, and then second year I came to university, so you had to live with me. And obviously I made your life so much better. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just
She's not
gonna.
happy with that explanation.
Okay, I'm just gonna get into that a little bit more. So Randa's right to some extent. I lived with non-Muslims for the first year, and then in second year and onwards, Randa came into the picture, and she decided she really wanted to go to Western as well, which was so annoying. And I was like trying to convince her to go elsewhere, and she was like, "No, I want to go to Western to get studying in school." And I was like, "You're just tagging along because you're scared to be alone, but that's fine." Anyways, she comes and lives with me, and then by that time I'd already met a few friends and stuff like that. So we make a 5-bedroom house, and honestly to this day, like everyone there is just like one of my closest friends, and it's been just an awesome experience living with them. They're super fun to be around, and just like Mido was saying, like they are Muslim girls, but it we speak about things, like we talk about things, even things that seem taboo or whatever, like we talk them through, and it's just been a really great experience, like not feeling like you have to hide this part of yourself that wants to have these kind of conversations, right? Like so I think it's I'm really happy to live in an all girls house. Also, another thing was that when this is, I know it's a very minute detail, but I, being a Muslim girl who lived in Qatar and like was homeschooled for part of my life and all these things, I was very enclosed. I didn't know much about everything. So alcohol bottles made me so stressed. Okay. And these girls would drink alcohol, whatever, right? I don't care about
Not
that
the
part.
roommates we live with.
The first year ones. The first year ones. Yeah, just slandering Michelle and Sana and all these people. They come for me after they watch us. Like, what do you mean we drink alcohol? No, it's the girls from first year, and so the whole house shared one fridge. It's 5 people sharing one fridge, which was like way too much. And so obviously they would have like their pork, and they would have like vodka bottles and stuff like that. And I was like, I cannot deal. I don't even want to be in the vicinity of that. Like it was so disgusting to
Bought
me.
her own little fridge.
So I had a mini fridge in my room where it kept everything, all my food, and it had a little freezer in it. And I would even use that freezer. I wouldn't even use the main freezer because I just hated seeing alcohol bottles. Like it made me uncomfortable. Does anyone else have that experience? No.
I don't have that at all, but I definitely understand why you would. If you're somebody who's like completely been sheltered from all this stuff, and then you have people who are like freely like putting it in your face 24/7, I get why you'd find that very uncomfortable. Like, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Like when it's something like you're told your entire life, like this is repulsive, this is horrible, and then you see it and you're like, oh, like get this out of my face, disgusting.
I remember first year university when I first saw like alcohol bottles. I was like, oh, it's drugs.
that was my experience.
Oh,
I was like,
what do I do? And like they had to teach me the difference between beer and alcohol. I would always call everything beer, and like they're like, it's not beer, it's alcohol. I was like, does it make you intoxicated?
That's such an Arab thing. Oh my god.
I know, bro.
I was like, does it make you intoxicated and drunk? They're like, yeah. I was like, so what's the difference? They're like, it's alcohol, not beer. It has more alcohol. I was like,
yeah. No, I saw the first time I saw that was all in high school. Because like my high school was like, yeah, like big, typical Western high school. Like there's partying. There's even people who brought alcohol to school and stuff. So like, that wasn't, anything surprising. But yeah, I definitely didn't have that reaction because I was very much, as I said, I was very curious. I was actually just I just wanted to peek at how these people lived. And that got me in a whole lot of trouble in its own. But like, yes, because the fact that I was curious didn't make me feel comfortable. I was just already like, in that mindset.
we cut off Balsam, so I was like, feel free to continue, Balsam.
No, it's okay. I like the interjections. They make my story like cohesive. But yeah, so they weren't big drinkers or anything like that at all. But it was like the St. Patrick's days where it was like friends would come over and then there would just be like beer bottles everywhere, and I'd be like, this is disgusting. Like I like to be towing through the living room because I'm just so repulsed. But now living with Muslim roommates, I never have to worry about that. Never have to worry about like leaving my room surprise there's a guy there. Don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so in that area, like the comfort is just there. But yeah,
you're definitely trading life lessons for comfort. So that's what my experience was. That's it. Now, like for example, now when me and my like close friends talk about like moving out, we don't even have to say it. We're all on the same page. Like we all go to Jama'ah together. We all like all we do is like discuss like our Islamic growth and stuff like this, and we all like have that relationship where we love each other for the sake of Allah, and like that those relationships I've never had before. So it's not even a topic of conversation. Oh, are we gonna have girls coming over, and like are we gonna have alcohol? Like this is not even at all. Nobody would ever even dare to do that. So like now it's such a comfort that I'm like, oh, like when I decided to move out, I got a few friends that I can move out with, and I'm gonna be like not just comfortable, but I'm gonna have a set of people who are gonna be pushing me to do the good and pushing me away from the bad. Let alone I'm a very, very self-motivated person. So I'm already like working on myself on my own, but having that nice support system just makes it better.
absolutely. And like there is really like a really nice feeling, like you said, when you're already with people who you don't even need to have these discussions with, whether you're going to have alcohol in your house or not, if anyone's going to be smoking or not, if there's going to be guys coming in or not. Like, you don't even need to go through these like uncomfortable, like awkward conversations where someone will be like, well, I want to like smoke in the house. Like that's not fair. Like you don't even have to have that conversation, which is very nice.
Yeah, my friend yesterday was like, he was just trying to annoy me. He's like, all right, I'm gonna he's like, I was like, oh, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go drink. I'm like, yo, listen, I'm not gonna lie in your grave. Only you're gonna lie in your grave. But if you do that shit in front of me, I'm definitely slapping you. So, it is what it is.
Okay, so imagine someone walks up to you, like a Muslim first year or a 12th grader going into university, and they're like, you know what, I'm moving out for university, but my roommates are not going to be Muslim. What would you tell them?
Boundaries, man.
Absolutely.
Like okay, I'm gonna speak for the guys. The girls can speak for the girls. For the guys, bro, listen. I don't know what your background will be situated like Islamically. Like, are you gonna be strong in your faith in your 12th? I wasn't 12th year. The faith was not even in my mind. So that's different. But whatever faith standard you're coming from, you need to analyze that and make decisions accordingly. If you're somebody that like is weak temptation wise and like your desires to get the best of you, I'd say try your best to choose. If you're living with non-Muslims and you get to choose who you live with, try to choose people who are not party people, who are not the type to bring girls over 24/7, that type of stuff, and maybe not smokers, all that. Like just try to find those people at least. If you're somebody that again, like if you're by the way, you shouldn't be around all these things, like Islamically speaking, but this is advice for people who have no choice. They're ending up like with people like that. So we're just trying to mitigate damage here. So if you're somebody that is in control, he has strong faith, and like you've done a good amount of like research on why you're a Muslim, you understand why you don't do certain things, then now you have to do boundary stuff, because now you're going to be annoyed if people do certain things that you don't agree with and they try to include you, or they kind of cross the lines. You're going to be getting annoyed with them, and that's going to create like a very non-harmonious relationship in the house, and that's going to create big problems for you guys. So that's, forget Islamically, you're going to have problems with your roommates if you don't create boundaries. So like talk about whether like if they need to drink, they can't do it in front of you. Talk about whether if they want to smoke, they can't do it in the house. Like use excuses, man. Say you have asthma. Like honestly, like lie to like benefit yourself a little bit there. So like say that, yo, if you have a girlfriend, like I don't know, again, it's all about what you're comfortable with, really. But just boundaries, man. Like just make sure you have an open conversation before getting and becoming roommates together. Because after, it doesn't matter, because they could recant on it, and they could, not bother with listening to you. But it's just like, they have conversations about who's doing the dishes what day of the week. You need to have that conversation, but prior to signing anything with them, you need to be like, yo, these are my standards. If you're cool with my standards, we can live together. If not, then we're not gonna live together. Just be firm on them too. Don't get pushed around.
Mido?
Okay. 100% agree with what Ismael said. Boundaries are something very, 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 very important. If you can speak up about it, if you can talk about it, if you can outline them, that would benefit you. But like, for example, one of the 5 years I lived on my own, it was just a matter of I needed to live in London, and I was told that I need to live in London about 1 week before I needed to come here. So I literally had to find any roommate, any room, any location. So you might not be able to have that conversation. And like, if you're a bit like me, where like I like, for people who know me, I am a bit more social. So I'm not the kind of person who's gonna isolate myself in my room. I'm not. I don't think I'll survive in that manner. I want to give you one piece of advice, because no matter how strong-willed we may think we are, no matter how weak-willed we may think we are, it does not matter, because Shaitan, oh man, he's so good at his job, right? He's so good at his job. He can tempt you like no other, right? So I'm going to say, no matter what you do, try to continue praying, right? I'm not like, I know praying 5 times. If you can pray 5 times, alhamdulillah, keep that up. But if you can't, try to not miss, try to pray at least 1 prayer a day, okay? Every Jama'ah, try to attend it, Jama'ah, okay? Try to go to Jama'ah prayers. Don't miss 2 Jama'ahs in a row. And the reason I say this is not because, you know what, that'll repent your sins or whatever, like, yes, but the main reason why I say this is because think of yourself bungee jumping, right? You're jumping off a cliff, right? One way you could jump, you can just jump and go, Allah save me, and then splat, right? Another way is at least put a little rope, right? Tie yourself to the bridge, and then when you jump, at least there's something there to catch you, right? For me, the thing that always, like, as I mentioned, the thing that impacted me the most is because every time I went to Jama'ah, it felt like the Imam was speaking to me directly, right? If I wasn't going to Jama'ah prayer 100,000,000%, I would have felt that the life that non-Muslims were having is the ideal life. I don't think I would have ever wanted to be with Muslims, but it's because I have that tether. I'm trying to keep myself attached to Islam as much as possible. It allowed me to eventually realize, you know what, I need to become more mature. I need to actually grow out of what I'm doing, and I need to become better. I need to be better, right? So I'm just gonna say, try your best, your absolute best, to pray Jama'ah in the mosque. Try your best to pray your daily prayers, but if you can't, don't miss it. It doesn't matter whether you've just smoked. It doesn't matter what happened. Don't miss, at least every single day, count it at least like 1 prayer a day that you pray on time. That's what I'm gonna say. As long as you're
Keeps you in an Islamic atmosphere.
yeah, as long as you're tethered to Islam, inshallah, you are guided back to the rightful path, inshallah.
The remembrance will keep you at least a little bit grounded till you find your way back. Balsam, go ahead.
I think I want to like say 2 things. One of them was advice for the girls. I want to say when like I was in the same situation as Mido. I did not know a single person in London, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. And I basically was just looking for a house on a main road so I wouldn't get kidnapped walking back from school. And just in a good place, there's food places around. I wasn't even thinking about the roommates. I found a nice house with good, decent rent and a cute room, and I signed the lease, and that was it. I was lucky enough to have like a respectful set of roommates, but I want to say, like, be unapologetically yourself, and literally just like what Ismail said, they call a meeting and they're like, who's gonna do the dishes, who's gonna do this, who's gonna do that. Literally, like, let people know, hey, I'm Muslim, I'm practicing. I don't like being around alcohol, so when you guys are drinking, I'm not going to be there, I'm going to be in my room. Or if you guys are bringing boys over, I don't like to be around that environment, or I need you guys to let me know because I wear the hijab, whatever. Let them know. They might think you're weird, but honestly, who cares, right? Like, they want to drink, they want to do all that stuff, and you can't tell people to not drink or not bring boys or whatever, because that's their right to do so, and that was on the lease prior. However, they can respect your wishes, and do things that make you feel a little bit more comfortable. They're not going out of their way, it's not an inconvenience, you're not going to come off as weird, like, it's whatever, they'll get used to it. Like, when I was in first year, they even knew about, like, me praying and everything like that. And, like, say we were going out for lunch, I'd be like, oh, hold on guys, I gotta pray my afternoon prayer, like, I gotta pray dhuhr, and I'll go pray and I'll come back. Like, they would respect that. I'd be like, oh, you gotta go pray, okay, we're gonna give you 5 to 10 minutes, whatever, we're gonna wait for you. Be unapologetically yourself. It will make your life so much easier, because otherwise you would have to be like, oh guys, I gotta go, like, to the bathroom, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that. Like, no, like, let them know that you're praying, that you're fasting on some days, that you don't like this, that, or the other, that you want a warning when a guy's coming over, that you want this or that. It's not weird, it's your right to do so. And then this other thing that I wanted to say, was kind of going along what Mido was saying, that it's so important to tether yourself in one way or another to your deen, because wallahi, it's so easy to find yourself in this environment where people are just having fun, living their life, whatever, right? No religious responsibilities, and you're like, this is so fun, and little by little, you're doing it with them, or you're in that environment, and we've seen it happen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Tether yourself and save yourself that guilt and that stress and that heartbreak of finding yourself in these situations. And like Mido said, like, prayer is so extremely important, because it's a reminder several times a day. It's a reminder of who you are and what you're doing, but also making a group of Muslim friends outside of your household, for me personally, has been tremendously helpful in first year. Living in a non-Muslim environment at home, but having Muslim friends on campus who I would study with and I would sit with all day, who understood me and I understood them. We went to the prayer room together, whatever. We attended MSA events. That helped me tremendously not go into that kind of environment, and also, like, not feel, not feel alone with who I am and what I believe. So yeah.
I want to say one thing that Balsam said. Balsam mentioned that, you know what, if you guys are drinking, I'm gonna be in my room and that kind of thing. I see Balsam's perspective. I don't recommend right away saying that, because you're going to isolate yourself, because to them it becomes no consequence. It's like, okay, we don't care, we're still having fun, right? Try your best to be like, hey, you, like, don't try to limit the number of outings try to limit the number of parties you have in our house. If you want, go outside the house, right? And be like, listen, the house is going to get dirty, right? And be like, do you want to clean it? Because I don't want to clean it. And be like, if you have people over, I'm not touching it, because I don't want to be involved in a party, right? Once you start talking about having to clean up, the cost of the cost of cleaning, the cost of everything, they're going to be like, oh man, I don't want to pay. And listen, every student is broke, right? Every student is broke.
We are also coming at it from a guy's perspective, because I also went through this thing. Girls, bro, they don't do parties, but what they do is they'll crack open a couple of vodka bottles and they'll sit, and wine bottles, and they'll sit in the living room and just drink together. That's why I understand what Bassam's saying. She's like, they don't even need to have any party or anything, but literally, like, every night they'll probably just get together on the couch and drink and go to sleep. So then I feel like the only way around that is basically either you have such a strong friendship with your roommates that they love to hang out with you so much that they're willing to give away not drinking around you, or you just have a normal roommate relationship where, you know, they're only willing to sacrifice so much and you're only willing to sacrifice so much. So you end up having to make a sacrifice. And in my opinion, that's okay, because at the end of the day, the moral decision is almost always a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it's not to me, like, at the end of the day, like if we're sacrificing not being, for example, like, you know, business student Faison, me always talk about this, like, yeah, we can't go to all these like bar networking things, right? It's like we're sacrificing in the short term, but you know, it's very hard to tell people at a bar to not drink, or you know what I mean? So like at the end of the day, sometimes it depends on the situation, but I 100% agree with you with the guy thing. That's a very easy one. I used to do the same things, like, yo, no parties at our place because it's dirty, disgusting, I don't want to clean, none of this stuff.
It's essentially like a 3-tier like intervention process. Number one, tell them like to limit the number of parties, because you know what, cleaning or whatever, like try to find any random excuse, right? And then number two is, if they want to, like if it's just like Ismail and Balsam mentioned, where it's just like them drinking together, you know how many times like my roommates like would just like go into one of my roommates' room and they all just drink in his room, right?
Yeah.
It's happened so much. So you can be like, you know what, try be like if you guys, if it's just like 2 or 3 of you, you could literally drink in one person's room and no problem will happen, right? Because odds are likely like they won't cry over using one person's room as a drinking room, right? So that could be one thing. And then eventually the third tier would be, you know what, like should you have like the absolute need to like drink in the house and like have a party and that kind of thing, let me know. This way I would either be out of the house or I would be in my room and no one's allowed to be in my room. And let them know, be like, because I am not associating with any of this, don't expect me to pay for anything that breaks. Don't expect me to associate anything with like the cleaning process, that kind of thing. Completely take yourself out of the equation. Because if they tell you, you know what, you're part of the house, you need to clean, be like, I'm not having the parties and I'm not participating in it, right? At that point, they themselves will start to feel like, oh, I don't want to have a party because he's not cleaning and he must clean. And like we've all had that vendetta where like you do that. So like I would recommend doing that. Because like, you know how many like I've had, like I remember like second year, me and my group of friends come together and like they have a party and literally our dining table breaks, right? They like one of the people broke our dining table. There was no way I'm paying for any of that. There was no way I'm cleaning any of that. I don't want to participate in it. Therefore, I'm not responsible for any of that, right?
Yeah.
So just keep that, set it as a boundary. Keeping in mind that if you guys, like there are people out there who aren't the best with conflict, right? They aren't the best with speaking up and talking about what's in their mind. You know what, me and my friends, we had like a Facebook group, right? I know like that's a little bit old, but like you guys can probably use like a messenger or WhatsApp or whatever, but like we made a Facebook group where we put like announcements on it and then you just like check it out. So one way you could just put the announcement, if you're the kind of person who's comfortable like doing it online, like you could do it online, you could do it in person, you could speak to one person that you're close with and tell him to speak up to everyone. But if you don't speak up for yourself, no one else will.
And at the end of the day, bro, like again, it goes back to sacrifice. Like, yes, you suck with conflict, but what do you care more about? You being, what's it called, uncomfortable for a couple of minutes, or do you care about your dean more? Exactly. Simple as. And then with regards to what Balsam and Mido are saying, yo, you also guys have to know you guys are super lucky because your roommates are so understanding. I know some real horror stories. They're not even Muslims, we're just non-Muslims trying to argue with Muslims about partying and like, yo, not non-Muslims arguing with non-Muslims about like, yo, I need to study. You guys party too much. Or so like, let alone for religious reasons, right? So like, you guys are also super lucky about that because, you know, they could even, you know, like the fact that Balsam's friends would always, or roommates, they would always make sure to tell her about the hijab thing. I know many roommates who are very careless with way lesser things. So like, they would just be like, oh, like, I forgot. It's not a big deal. Like, I know that guy just saw your hair, but like, you don't have to be so extra about it. Like that could be a very easy response that I could see from a girl coming at Balsam. So like, yeah, you guys just need to know that while it worked out for you guys because you know, last minute and all this stuff, and Allah blessed it for you guys, you really need to be like aware of who you're getting involved with because it could either be hell for a year or it could be like a blessing. So yeah, just be careful who you're becoming roommates with. Like talk with them on Facebook, like how it was. for our res, you usually meet people on Facebook and all this stuff, and you kind of get to know them and all this stuff. So like, I know when you're not doing res, it's harder obviously to do that. But even if you could talk to the landlord, be like, hey, can you give me the information of the people who are going to be renting with me, or at least some contact information so I could get to know them or whatever, go for a coffee, etc. Just try. I know the limitations are there, but it's up to you at the end of the day. The less you try, the more likely you could be in a bad situation.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I want to say, Mido and Ismael are absolutely right. For me, like, I got super lucky. The people I was with weren't super big drinkers. Two of them didn't drink already, so like it was really just like two people who would occasionally drink or they would have friends over. You know how Western is with like the big events, people always come to party at Western. So it would be like days like those. But I think it's really helpful to schedule time out of the house as well. Like if people are having a party, your roommate's letting you know, oh, I have people coming over, we're just gonna have like some beers or whatever, right? Like schedule that time out, maybe part of the afternoon or the evening, study at the library or like be with your friends, go to some kind of event or something, to kind of distance yourself. But yeah, like I was super comfortable staying in my room because I was a first year engineering student with 7 courses. So I was studying. I had to be isolated. I had no choice. I had no time to party anyways. So
I guess self-isolating before it was cool.
I was self-isolating before it was cool. Like I was either at the library studying or I was at home studying. So I guess your third option is just pick a really, really difficult program where you don't even have time to be around these things.
Yeah. Last piece of advice, make sure your door locks. That's my last piece of advice.
100%.
If your door doesn't lock, get a lock. Because let's say there is a party and you don't want to be at home. People will rob your room if you don't know who's gonna be in the house at all. And people will go in your room, they will rob your stuff. So make sure you could lock your room before you go anywhere. And forget just anybody that walks in the house, your own roommates. Like you don't know these people, you just walked in to live with them, right? So like make sure. While I had very nice roommates and all that, and we became, friends, very, very good friends over that time. You don't know who you're rooming with, so make sure, you lock your room locks, and make sure that, if you want to leave your house and there's, you don't know who's coming in, boyfriends, friends of boyfriends, whatever it is, or girlfriends, whatever, you need to make sure that you could trust that your room is locked and stuff. And if you're there during a party, you don't want a guy and a girl to be trying to hook up and walk in, like go into your room, trying to hook up in your room.
I was literally about to say, I was like, that actually happened where I was literally like doing some sort of work in my room, and then I just see like a guy and girl walk into my room. I was like, walk out.
Oh my gosh, horrible.
So definitely I agree with Mayo and Balsam. I think all of us agree on that. Like get a lock, like that's 100% very important.
And it's not like mistrusting your roommates or whatever, but like, and at the end of the day, there's other individuals who live in your house, and not everyone is as careful or responsible as everyone else. And you just want to make sure there's no random people coming to your house. Yeah. Like that's just a general tip in general, living with roommates, no matter who they are. Like protect yourself, protect your room, because people get robbed.
Yeah, if any roommate is like weirded out, I'd be like, yo, listen, this is for you guys. It's for you guys, because so that you guys are comfortable bringing whoever you want into the house. Because if we don't have locks on our rooms, I'm going to be police checking every single person and taking IDs from every single person that has to come in this house.
I live with Muslim roommates. I still lock my door, and I still have a lock on my door. And these are my bestest friends. And it's not because I mistrust them at all.
Hey, yo, Balsam is weird.
No. But everyone has a lock on their door, right? Like it's not from mistrust from them at all. Like if they ever need something, I'm like, yo, just sit in my room, sit at my desk, take my stuff. Like it's not that they're my best friends, but it's like you have a landlord who has access to your room. Yeah. You never know, they might send like someone to fix something. Like just I think this is a tip in general. If you come to move into a house and you don't find a lock on the door, what I would always do is go to the hardware store and put my own lock.
Yeah.
Well, first tell the landlord, because some landlords might be like, no, like don't ruin my door. So tell
I switch it and I switch it back. when I
No,
move
but-
out.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
For me, I
I
just
guarantee, bro. I guarantee there's some easy locks that you don't even need to drill anything in anywhere. Like
You don't need to drill.
some
No.
mechanism or whatever. Yeah.
It's
Like,
just screwing in
A
and out.
doorknob. Buy a new doorknob that has a lock in it. That's it.
oh, there you go. Easy.
but what I'm saying is just tell the landlord and they'll pay for it instead of you having to pay for it. It's all
Yeah,
No,
some
but
landlords are
sometimes,
nice.
sometimes
Shouldn't
they're
be
like,
stopping
no.
you.
Like I remember one of the houses we lived in, he refused, and
Did
so
he?
we went and we got our own. Like,
Oh,
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever works, you know.
yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say, but I'm mostly worried that Randa's just gonna take her clothing.
I do
Okay,
that anyways.
listen,
because
she
I
does
have-
that every day.
I have
I
to
literally
keep
just
her
fought with her
room.
yesterday.
So-
I just fought with her yesterday about her taking my clothes. And
Mm.
even then, I'll see her on campus just wearing my shirt. I'm like, what the hell? Give me your keys.
Bruh.
You've lost privileges.
Okay, but you do that too. So don't act brand new, okay?
Yo,
But okay. I don't like your sense of style, so I'm not stealing your stuff, but okay.
Oi!
That was a sore subject. I think I brought up a sore subject right there.
Yo,
There's-
I don't know.
there's
Maybe
some-
we shouldn't have brought this up.
Oh,
There is some discussions and fights
Yeah, bro.
over that.
Alhamdulillah,
already.
I don't have any sibling that's near my age. That's like my brother is like 9 years younger than me. Nobody's touching my stuff. I'm extremely particular and extremely careful with my stuff. So like, no, you just cannot. Nobody can. No, nobody's allowed to touch my stuff. So,
You know
like, yeah,
what?
Me and my brothers, because I have an older brother and younger brother, and we're all like same size, same everything. Literally, like we literally have just one closet. You take whatever's in there. Like we share.
oh my God, no way.
Wow.
We share
Listen,
everything.
It's a communal closet.
let me
It is
tell
a
you why,
community,
Belsam.
no.
Listen, because Belsam came at me, so I'm gonna have to come at her back, and then we can.
Ooh.
Do you know why she's mad?
Let's
Stop
go.
the episode. Let's
Listen,
watch this.
Do you know why she's mad at me taking her clothes? Because I pull them off better than she does.
Oh no.
Okay. So
the
one of
mic
these
drop.
episodes, we're gonna bring Renda's pictures from high school and first year and
Oh
expose
my.
her and show the world how Renda used to dress and how her sense of style and how stylish she is, everything she's stylish, is basically just me and her robbing
That's cap.
the way I dress.
okay?
Let's be honest, Renda. You saw me, you
It's
got
okay.
inspired,
Style-
and then you robbed me.
style is an evolutionary process. Like it evolves, so it's okay. Like it's she found herself at the end, right? So that's what matters. Now she rocks it better than you,
Right?
right? I'm quoting her. I'm not saying anything.
You're not saying anything. Well, okay.
Yo, I'm watching out for my co-host, bro. That's what's up.
I appreciate the loyalty there. But yeah, it's okay. I let her steal some of my stuff because I know like I get into her closet sometimes. So you know, it's give and
Yeah.
take. It's good.
That eyebrow raise from Randa, bro. When she said, "Oh, I take stuff from her closet too," he's like, "Word."
Thank you all for watching this week's episode. We talked about what it's like to live with non-Muslim roommates. Mido, Balsam, and Ismael shared their funny stories, their experience, and a whole lot of advice. And so I hope you guys find it useful. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. Salam. Balsam,
Oh my God.
This is so extra. Do it again.
I didn't know.
Okay, go salam again one more time.
No.
No, we're
keeping
keeping that.
That's
I'm gonna
perfect.
stop.
No.